Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Hole in the Wall. This is a podcast where me and my co-host Nimi, say hello, Nimi,
Hello.
and me, I'm the Bluegrass Goblin. We talk about all of the latest stories in gaming and just really popular stuff around the internet, just whatever we can find, kind of like a weekly recap show. And I think the biggest story this week in the gaming space, be it tabletop or video games or what have you, is the Spider-Man collector boxes price and just the price on singles in this set in general falling continuously. Nimi, what do you think about this while I go ahead and pull up some of these prices?
Honestly, I think it's pretty pretty interesting and kind of crazy because you were looking at cards even just last week, and we were talking about it just a couple days ago where stuff was in like the hundreds of dollars. Things are falling into the 30s already, so like huge price cuts. And even on like your rares and stuff are going down into the single digits, which it's very interesting to see with especially with pre-release prices. Usually those stay up super high then drop, but we're already seeing those big chunks fall now, which is good for me because I don't want to spend all this money on a card.
Oh yeah. At time of recording, I think we're about 2 weeks out from the official release of the set, about a week out from pre-release, and you could just see here. I've got TCG Player open. This Gwenum Remorseless extended art. It's got a listing for $49.89, and the market price is $125. Look at this graph. Annihilation for anyone who bought this card, for one person who bought this card at 125. My goodness.
I'm so sorry, sir.
Whoever ordered this, I just try and refund it or something, man. My goodness. Like even the Soul Stone, it's crept up, but it's back down. 78.95 at the market value. 10 of them sold at 145.37. It's half that today.
Yeah, just the volume of listings too. Like I know I've been watching unboxing videos every now and then from just people getting stuff early, and I haven't seen a Soulstone getting pulled yet, but looks like they are there. They're getting sold, so somebody has them.
This borderless spider punk, you see the market price here, 30.52. We were looking at this card together the other night, and this was a $30 card, and we were commenting on what a price drop that was from some earlier pre-order prices we had seen.
Yeah, and it's especially interesting that it's the borderless version specifically, because that's usually the one reserved for the collectors or for the people that want to chill out. And it being under $20 is very, very good for the price for people that want to get the singles of it, because it's a very good card. It's playable. So it's good for everybody that wants to get the singles.
And the art on this is really cool too. Like, I know some people might not dig the big Spider-Man set symbol in the background there, but just Spider-Punk laying on the webbing, chewing bubblegum with the electric guitar. It's just a lot of personality in some of the arts, and it doesn't seem like, I mean, even these comic book sagas that were really hyped up when they were first revealed, like, I understand not all of them are going to be super playable, but this one's going for $3. And if you compare that to the price of a pack, you know, this is one of your quote unquote hits, and it barely gets a percentage of your money
Well,
back.
Goblin, have you watched any openings so far?
So I watched a little bit of the one Wubby posted earlier today. I didn't make it all the way through. We were actually had to sit down to record this, but yeah, it looked like he was getting about a saga per pack.
Yeah, and from what it looks, especially the collector pack specifically, it looks like there's at least one borderless card and one card from the bonus sheet. So it looks like they're pretty common to pull, especially if you're getting collector's pack.
We could cherry pick cards like this all day. But really, I think the broader message here, and the question I really wanted to bring up by talking about these prices, is is this specific to Spider-Man, or are we looking at a broader rejection of universes beyond in general? Like, is this the first nail in the coffin for this era of Magic product?
I don't know if it would even be the first. I think it might be the second because the only other set that reminds me of this in the way of, like you said, rejection would be Assassin's Creed. There was just a lot of people that weren't on that set specifically, and there were one or two breakout cards from it, and the cards from the bonus sheet did pretty well too. Like in this one looks like it's going to be as well, but it's getting that same vibe where it could be a really strong IP, but if the cards themselves aren't worth picking up, the players are gonna players are gonna notice and they're going to respond with their wallets.
Yeah, and I'm struggling to find, like, what makes this set, just on a card by card basis, that different from any other Universes Beyond product. And as I sit here thinking about it, I really don't think it's any one card that is kind of turning people down this path. I think it is more of a the what is that saying? The sum is greater than the whole of its parts or whatever. I think it's a ton of little things that different people don't like for whatever reason, and they're all kind of jammed into this set. You spoke about Assassin's Creed, and the comparisons that have been made online to Assassin's Creed are endless at this point. But Assassin's Creed, if I'm not mistaken, that was a straight to modern set. And I just don't understand why Spider Man had to be a standard release.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you look at the power level of these cards, like if you look at any competitive formats, specifically standard, because that's what they were pushing with Spider-Man specifically. Do any of these scream I'm better than Vivi?
No, and while I do think there are some cards here that you will see play in standard, like we talked about Spider Punk earlier, I think a lot of them are in red, and red is already really strong in standard. And I don't, admittedly, I haven't played a lot of Arena for a few months, and I don't see myself playing Arena for a while because of the weird digital rights split that is going on with this set, which is another reason that makes me question, like, why this had to be a standard product. Like, we talked about this once before. I think, or I have a belief that if you don't change a single card in this set, don't change a single line of text on any card, but all of them are arranged into 4 or 5 commander decks, people would be going crazy for this product.
I mean, it just feels more like the whole universe is beyond kind of feels that way too, and they've shown it with Fallout, they've shown it with Doctor Who. Like the Commander products sell very well. Final Fantasy, of course, they like when they make them with Commander decks and Commander players and more in mind and geared towards them. That stuff just sells because people like just having it all in one place. And if they get to play with new cards, perfect. But a lot of people just want to play with the ones they want to play with.
Yeah, or play with the characters that they like. Like, I think that's what Final Fantasy and Fallout specifically did really, really well. And Doctor Who did this really well, too, is that Doctor Who had, what was it, 13, 14 doctors who had been on TV since the 60s, and they got all of those into one product, and it didn't feel forced. But I see, like, here on just this one page of TCG Player that I'm on, we have Origin of Spider-Man, Spider Ham, Peter Porker, Symbiote Spider-Man, Spider Punk, Peter Parker, and Silk Webweaver. And here's Agent Venom, who, while has a very different name, kind of looks like Spider-Man, admittedly, even though this is one of my favorite Marvel characters. Um, but I think that a lot of people are complaining that the density of Spider-Men in this set kind of feels forced. Oh, here's Cosmic Spider-Man. I didn't even notice him down here. But Doctor Who managed to include every doctor and every companion, and it didn't feel the same way because they were split apart into commander decks, and you could buy your favorite one, right? And they even had a villains commander.
And there's cards in the set that just make sense for them to be the commander decks. Like if you look at the Peter Parker that was blue, white, green, like that no reason why shouldn't be a face commander. And Norman Osborn who turns into the Green Goblin, and Eddie Brock who turns into Venom. Like those cards just scream like these are face
Yeah,
commanders.
and they're all in 3-color shards. Like Eddie Brock is Jund, Peter Parker is Bant, Green Goblin is Grixis. Like, we just need like a Doctor Octopus in Esper. Like this one's in Demir, so close enough, right? But we would just need one more villain or hero in another 3 color.
Well, there's Miles, and then there's Ghost Spider who's in Jeskai.
Yeah, yeah. So you could have had 5 commander decks. Like I said, not change a single thing, and you would pretty much cover everything. Now admittedly, there are some Demir cards and stuff that would be lost, but maybe you have Cosmic Spider-Man be a commander, and that can be kind of a catch-all, right? It's a Woober. Oh, there's been endless speculation about this was a Beyond booster, this was supposed to come out next year, this came out this year because the Spider-Man movie was supposed to come out this year. And like, while I have a lot of fun like listening to that kind of content, to me I think the much more interesting question is like, what what is the future for universes beyond, given that, as you put it earlier, this is kind of the second nail in the coffin, being the second set that has been kind of widely rejected. What does this mean for Avatar later this year?
Yeah, and is I know we've gotten a couple things with spoils, and they've talked about the products coming out for it, but is it going? Is I think from what I've seen, Avatar is going to have a lot more cards than this, right?
I think it's a bigger set. I don't know. There's not
Hmm.
commander product for it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I don't think Avatar does have a good fan base, but it's nowhere near as big as what Spider Man is, and it just feels like a very weird fumble in my eyes.
Yeah, we were talking about this, what, at Gen Con? And I think you and and we were talking to a couple other of our friends, and they were saying that, I mean, Final Fantasy was out at the time, and they were saying that Final Fantasy boxes were going to be the most expensive collector boxes ever, right? And I think you and I were saying, well, Spider Man's already catching up. You know, Spider Man's already, at the time, I think it was pre ordering in the 700s. And I think you and I were kind of dissenting on that opinion, and I mean, look how wrong we are today. I mean, I could not have guessed that this would go this. So now that we've kind of spent some time lamenting the wrongness of our forecasting and kind of really just wondering where Wizards goes from here, and what this means for other sets, is there anything you are excited about playing out of Spider-Man?
Me personally, I am a huge Spider-Man fan. Like I've watched the movies, I've grown up with the Sam Raimi trilogy. I have a good amount of the comics that I read and keep up with. And one specifically, yeah, is Norman Osborn. It seems like a very fun commander to play with, especially with the mayhem. So you get the discard and the reduced cost when it's in the graveyard. So it seems like he'd be really fun to play and really cheap commander to come out too. So and I'm a huge fan of black. It's probably one of my favorite colors. I usually have black in some form or fashion in my decks, and I have Grixis a commander built that's in Grixis that I'm just going to break apart and put to this. Just keep the lands and buy some of the new stuff.
Yeah, I love upgrading my mana bases. It's my favorite thing to do because whenever I want to swap commanders, boom, half my deck's already built. It feels so good. And I do think that this Norman Osborn Green Goblin commander is really well designed. Like, the front side can't be blocked, and he's a 1/1, so he's not gonna beat anybody to death right away. But whenever he does deal combat damage, he's gonna connive, right? So you can draw a card and then discard, and if you discard a non-land, he'll get a +1/+1. So that's gonna fill your graveyard for the Green Goblin half. Like, I really like the way that this card is put together. But you
Yeah.
did mention something that I wanted to touch on and kind of completely forgot to bring up. You said you were a big Spider-Man fan and you were really kind of looking forward to this product. You grew up with the Sam Raimi trilogy, and you're a Spider-Man comic reader too, I know, just from knowing you in real life. And Universes Beyond is actually what brought you to Magic with Fallout, right?
Yeah, I've played card games before, and me personally, I would never wanted to get into Magic because of the card pool and how confusing it can be mechanically. And then the Fallout Commander decks came out, and Fallout's probably my favorite IP of all time. So I was like, well, damn it. Now I got to get into Magic. And then once we had our group together that played more regularly, it just got more fun and just hooked more onto it. But me personally, I'm a sucker for IPs. So seeing a Spider-Man set, I was like, yes, this is it. Like I'm gonna go super hard in this set. And now I'm just looking for the pieces that I want. Like I don't really feel like I'm going to buy any sealed product. Maybe the what is it, the scene set
Yeah.
where it has all the six cards together, or 6 or 8 cards together, because that looks cool, like art wise. But I just don't feel like investing as much as I wanted to.
So a question I did have, did the really high prices initially, did that have a chilling effect on you? Or did that make you want the set more or less when boxes were pre-ordering for 800? Collector boxes, that is.
Well, I not to get too much into my personal life, but I'm broke.
Well, I
I
mean,
was, aren't we all?
well,
I wasn't
at
really.
$800 a box, I think a lot of people are broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't. I was excited just because I wanted to see the product come out, and I was just wrapping my brain and racking it to see what cool stuff they can make. Because Spider-Man is such a rich history, and funny enough, some of my favorite cards that I've seen are cards from the bonus sheet. Because the bonus sheet specifically has very iconic moments from like the comics, like the reanimate. Oh my god!
Yeah, we were talking about this the other night. This is you were explaining to me how iconic of a comic panel this is. Well, I was a kid in the 2000s, the aughts, as people say, And I was kind of leaned into some of the more edgy stuff of that time. So I was like, I'm not going to read Spider Man. I want to read Agent Venom. You know, he's got guns and he's an alcoholic. You know what I mean? So,
Does he relate? Do you relate to him?
yeah, I relate to somebody with former substance issues that gets a second chance at life, another little redemption arc. We all love a redemption arc, you know? But you know, I'm glad Agent Venom made it to the set, but I'm liking this price on this borderless a lot more than I was last week.
Yeah, and let's if the trend continues, let's see where it is in 2 or 3, 4 weeks from now.
Yeah. But back to the bonus sheet overall. Like this Savage Beating, you know, I did read some Venom, so I'm kind of familiar with some of these panels. The Mystic Confluence, I think that's the Secret Wars cover, right?
Yeah, yeah. That was from the original Secret Wars, where Spider-Man got the original black suit, the symbiote. That's the cover of the art. And one that I'm really excited to get to is Winds of Change, I believe is what it was, because that is the first issue of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, when he gets the black suit. And
Yeah,
I,
here it is.
I have that comic book, so I would love to have it right side by side with its actual comic partner.
Yeah, I think I have a Agent Venom figure that if I get this borderless opposition agent, I might pair them together, you know, a little display. But like you said, we'll see if this price comes down a little bit more first. But that leads me to like more and more questions about this set. You have access to these comic panels, and I know some of them, like there's been some people have made some fun of this counterspell. You know, it's just kind of simple, just the solid yellow background, and Spider-Man's getting backhanded by Doc Ock there. Had serialized cards. If this Path to Exile was one of 200, one of 250, like I feel like that would just bring something extra to the set that really wouldn't cost them that much more time. And it's just baffling how they've missed in almost every way here.
Yeah, you could tell they have they knew what they were doing, especially like you could see with the bonus sheet. They have a lot of good ideas and stuff here, but they wanted to make their own arts, I guess, or they had their own things in mind, and it just doesn't feel as Spider-Man as the bonus sheet does. At least the set proper.
So we talked a little bit about Norman Osborn. Are there any other commanders you're thinking about building?
Uh, None really come to mind. Now there are some cards that I'm interested in just as the singles, but nothing really comes to mind that I want to like build around.
Yeah.
Because I have a couple of 2 color decks myself, and 3 color I don't have too many of, so I was going to build Norman. That was the only one that really caught my eye.
Yeah, I think for me it's Eddie Brock. So when Eddie Brock enters, he's 2 and a black for a 3/3 human hero villain. So when he enters, you can return target creature card with mana value one of less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then you can pay 3 and Jund, so 6 mana, to transform him. And then he's Menace, Trample, Haste, 5/5 on the backside. And whenever Venom attacks, you can sacrifice another creature, and if you do, draw X cards, and then you can put a perm into play with mana value X or less from your hand, where X is the sacrificed creature's mana value. So something immediately when I saw this commander is I thought, oh man, this is going to be really fun to play with Insidious Roots. Like this is a card from Murders at Karlov Manor, Markov Manor. I now can never remember the name of that set. Um, but basically, it's an enchantment that whenever a creature leaves your graveyard, you get a plant token, and your plant tokens can tap for mana. So I'm gonna play a lot of one drops that I can sack for value, and then bring them back whenever I cast my commander. And then just a lot of good old reanimator stuff. I mean, Jun's really good at that. And just, I like the idea of swinging with my commander, sacking like a Thrag Tusk or something, gaining the life, and then just playing another 5 drop and just kind of chaining 5 drops all game. So I think that'll be a really fun, kind of grindy Jund strategy.
Well, and just the keywords on himself are nothing to shake home about.
Oh, yeah.
Menace, trample, haste, like really good evasion, and a lot. And being him being a 5/5 beater, like it's gonna most of the time your stuff's gonna get through along with getting your extra effects.
Oh, yeah. I love me some creature combat. Any final thoughts on Spider Man before we move on? We talked a little bit about the bonus sheet. You got any favorites here other than Reanimate?
The Winds of Change, I'm a big fan of. What else?
Yeah, this Venom King in Black is pretty sick.
Yeah, I asked if I can buy that card, and you told me no.
I said you could do whatever you want. I don't think our play group would like a 4/4 flying infect, but I'll have to
The
get
term,
over it, I guess.
yeah, the Terminate's really good. That I like Terminate as a card anyway, just because it's pretty cheap removal. The Ponder art is super nice too, and of course you gotta love the Path to Exile, the Spider-Man No More.
Moving on from Magic the Gathering, later on in the episode, we'll talk about some of the cards that we haven't really seen covered, or just really haven't heard a lot of talk about them in general. So we'll just have a little must play or menace section at the end. But moving on now from Magic the Gathering, we have a big announcement for Star Wars Unlimited. Force Throw, effective September 22nd, is banned, or as they call it, suspended from Premiere. So in classic FFG fashion, they kind of gave us a little blurb about why this happened. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into that. And Nimi, feel free to jump in between here with thoughts and stuff you have as we kind of go through this little blurb here. So on FFG's website, they say, just before the release of Legends of the Force, we mentioned that there were older tools that we expect to perform better than they ever have before. Force Throw and Force Lightning were both skyrocketing in play rate with the release of Legends of the Force, and one of those cards was performing just a little better in the other. In fact, one of them may be performing than nearly any card in Star Wars Unlimited history. Force Throw was played in just over half of the top 64 decks at Galactic Championships. That's like VV levels of play, if we want to tie this back to Magic. And continued to have high play rates as we moved into planetary qualifiers. On a bad week, Force Throw takes up roughly 35 to 40% of the top 8 meta share, and around 45% of the winners. On a good week, those numbers can go above 50%. Additionally, each week, between 65 and 75% of heroism decks to make top 8 included Force Throw in some capacity. My
So,
goodness.
so to give a little more context, Force Throw is an event card that came out of set one. It is red in color, and it says choose a player. That player discards a card from their hand. Then, if you control a force unit, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of the discarded card. So, right off the bat, you have some form of hand interaction, which typically isn't too prevalent, especially in Star Wars where you're drawing 2 cards a turn. But when you have that extra effect of it being doing damage with a force unit, you have it not modal per se, but just extra effects that just push it over the edge. And with Legends of the Force being mostly force based units, you're going to be able to get that second clause off very consistently.
And it really leads to some kind of degenerate play lines where Force Throw can end up being a really solid 2-for-1 that you can kind of weave in anywhere into your curve, or you can target yourself, discard an expensive card to kill an opponent's big unit. I think the versatility is really what kind of pushed this thing over the edge. So let's keep reading. So FFG goes on to say, of course, we want to look beyond just the numbers. Surprise Strike and Hotshot DL44 Blaster have also put up some high numbers before. Both of those are very solid cards, and they're both just kind of pump spells for someone who hasn't played this before. And take play pattern into consideration. At its absolute worst, Force Throw makes your opponent discard a card. A mediocre card. Situationally fine at its best. Force Throw is taking a massive future threat from the opponent while simultaneously defeating a unit in play. Prior to Legends of the Force, cards like Force Throw were the only game pieces asking you to include a high number of Force units, and Kinlan Voss, that's a leader from Twilight of the Republic, was the only leader to consistently opt into that deck building puzzle. With the introduction of the Force token, we now have multiple other strong payoffs for being a Force-based deck, and Force Throw's deck building condition is too easy to meet as a result. Now there's an interesting point that I thought about some, but hadn't really considered, that Force Throw's power is amplified by the new Force bases. Because you have this Force token that you can spend on extra effects that is also asking you to include Force units.
Yeah, if you wanted to run just red in any shape or fashion, and as of right now, red is a very strong and popular color, so it's it's almost like the stars were aligning too perfectly for Force Throw to be as popular as it is.
So, the end of the article here, it says, while Force Throw has had some dips over the last couple months, over the long term, it has been hitting a consistently high enough success rate that we want to take action before sector qualifiers and regional championships for this set kick off. Our goal is to give some breathing room to archetypes that have either felt down or outclassed by Force Throw, as well to give some non-aggression, aggression is the name for red in this game, as well as to give some non-aggression Force decks more room to shine. Looking even further ahead to Secrets of Power, we want to give the Disclose mechanic a chance to shine in an environment not warped by a ubiquitous event that reduces both players' hand sizes in most games. Additionally, we have determined that none of the other currently suspended cards are viable candidates to be reintroduced into Premiere at this time. Yeah, I don't think anything on the current suspended list for Star Wars Unlimited needs to come off. I don't think that this ban is a bad move at all. This honestly makes me more excited to play the game.
Yeah, and I agree at the end of the day because it can be disgusting, especially if you build around it specifically. And at the end of the day, I mean, why do we play games? To have fun. And you and me specifically, we go to competitive events, but when we're at the locals with the homies, we just want to have fun, play our crazy decks that we just built. So getting rid of that type of play pattern just makes it better for everybody.
I mean, we could really go into the numbers and break things down if we were specifically a Star Wars Unlimited podcast, but I think that FFG has done a really good job at maintaining the health of their game, and then when they do ban something, they usually give a really strong reasoning as to why. I think other games could really take notes from FFG in how they handle their competitive space overall and their bannings.
So now we're going to talk must play or menace. Here we have 10 cards pulled from the newest Spider-Man set. We're going to read them off, see what we think about them, see if they're going to be a must-play card for your decks or menace to something just avoid.
All right, so first up, we've got the Spot Living Portal. He is 3 a white and a black for a 4/4 human scientist villain. When the spot enters, exile up to one target non land permanent and up to one target non land permanent from a graveyard. And when the spot dies, you put him on the bottom of his owner's library, and if you do, return the exiled cards to their owner's hands. So this is kind of a neat piece of removal or a way to kind of store things for when you need them at a later time. This is a really interesting card. It doesn't have to target your opponent's stuff, but it can. And you could exile a problem target from an opponent's graveyard. You could use this as a political piece, like, hey, I'll take this out of your graveyard and let it come back to your hand if you do this for me. For me, this is a must play. I think this goes right into my Servandum deck from Edge of Eternities. Just a really cool Orzhov piece overall. What do you think about this guy, Nemi?
I really like that it just says non-land permanent. Black specifically has pretty hard time hitting things that aren't creatures, and white has some good things too. But having it in Orzhov just gives you more piece of that puzzle, so you can able to hit more things. And him just being able to recur himself is also a really good piece as well. So theoretically, if you're able to get your deck shuffled, you're able to get this guy back and play him even more. So I like this guy too. And not too far of rate, 5 mana, little hefty, but in a commander deck, I don't see this being a problem at all.
Yeah, to me, I think this is more of something you put in your 99 and not really a commander card. Um, and yeah, that's really interesting about the recursion, too. I mean, Black has a ton of tutors that you can tutor this guy back out after he dies, play it again. I really think this is a really well designed card overall. So, next up is Spider Woman Stunning Savior. You want to take this one?
Yeah. So Spider Woman, Stunning Savior. She is one and a blue or white. She is a legendary creature, spider human hero for 2/2. And she has flying and venom blast. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter tapped. This is a card that I picked just because of the rate. I mean, just two and one or a blue, so this is going in your multicolor decks. Very cheap, and you stacks players are going to love this card. Just get that early, early. What's the word I'm thinking of? The early
Orb, basically. I don't know if
orb.
it's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The
Spider
slowdown.
Orb.
Yeah, and her with flying too is just another good piece of evasion too. So she's going to be able to swing over most guys, creatures, little doinkers, and just keep hitting and making more of a nuisance on the board.
Yeah, I think this thing is correct. In limited, this card is going to be a monster. In the age of the dinosaurs, when I started playing, we played Wind Drake in limited, and that's two in a blue for a 2/2 flyer, and this has so much more to offer. I think in a commander setting, I think this card for me is an absolute menace. You put this on the table and you instantly become the bad guy, despite her creature type being hero. You will be the villain once this hits the table.
Play it with a grain of salt.
Is this a must play or a menace for you?
I think it's a must play. It's a cheap little doinker, flying, so you got the evasion. I don't see you putting this in the command zone because that would be ignorant. But throwing her in your 99, especially in white and blue, and the colors of the like, I think it has a home in a deck.
In the command zone is brutal. Like, enjoy your tapped mana rocks. Oh no. Next up, we got Damage Control Crew. This is one that I picked out. This is 3 and a green for a 3/3 human citizen. And when this creature enters, choose one. You get to repair, so you can return a creature card with mana value 4 or greater from your graveyard to your hand. Or you can impound, exile target artifact or enchantment. So, I think green can destroy artifacts and enchantments pretty well. I mean, like Reclamation Sage is a card that gets played in that color. But I think exiling nowadays is so much better than destroying something. I mean, there's cards like Abuelo's Awakening to get your enchantments back. There's countless ways to get artifacts back from the graveyard. And getting a little bit of recursion in green. I mean, that's like not outside of green's color pie, but I just think the modal nature of this card is really good, especially if you get to double up on ETBs in any way. Or, like, I plan on playing this in my Galta deck, so I just slam Galta and play a whole bunch of guys and just get some good value off of this. And I can even get a creature back to reload my hand for the next Galta play. So, really cool card overall. I think this one's a must play. I think the mana value's a little bit high, but you're in green. You got the extra mana in Commander.
I think it's funny because a lot of people have memed on this set for just having the randomest things and Magic the Gathering, the card game about spells, and we have pigeons, we got taxi drivers, and now we have construction worker.
We have
But we don't really care much about the picture. We care a lot about the text, and like you hit the nail right on the head. The text is very good. The modal part of it makes it good for a good majority of situations, and I think it finds a home. I think this is a must play.
So next up is Strength of Will. I think you picked this one out, right?
I did. Now this one, it's one and a green, and instant. Until the end of turn, target creature you control gains indestructible, and whenever this creature is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So this one being an instant, just I think is what really makes the card
Oh,
because
100%.
giving your stuff indestructible, giving your one guy indestructible is really good too. And then especially if you have cards, especially if you're in the process of being board wiped, just protect your guy, and now you have him even bigger. So, and green is really good for those indestructible, like sneaky plays. So this just adds on to it, just another option for you.
Oh yeah, and I mean, can you imagine somebody casts Blasphemous Act and you have this thing in hand?
Or you cast Blasphemous Act, holding priority.
Oh no. I do think this is a really cool card. People play Snakeskin Veil. People play Withstand Death, and I think the one extra mana is worth the effect here. This is a really cool combat trick too. I know those don't get played a ton in Commander, but they do have their place, and I think this is a really sneaky way to block a big threat and make a big threat of your own. Even if you don't use this per se on your commander, I just think there's a lot of good ways to use this. And 2 mana isn't a huge ask to leave open in green. I'll agree with you. I think this is a must play if given you have a creature based deck. Next up is Chameleon Master of Disguise. He's 3 and a blue for a legendary creature, human shapeshifter villain, and he's a 2/3. So you may have Chameleon enter as a copy of a creature you control, except his name is Chameleon Master of Disguise. And he has Mayhem for 2 and a blue, so you can cast it from your graveyard for cheaper than his regular casting cost, provided you've discarded a card this turn. I think this slots perfectly into that Norman Osborn Green Goblin deck. You're going to have tons of ways to discard cards for value in Grixis. And the clone effects that get around the legend rule are really strong. Like, we have somebody in our play group that plays a loot deck, the one from Aetherdrift, and being able to copy that commander over and over again and get extra activations of exhaust is so strong. Like, I think this card is going to go right into any deck that wants a critical mass of clone effects. And then on top of that, it's going to be extra good in any deck that can take advantage of the mayhem clause. So I really like the design of this one. I think this is a must play if you want those clone effects. What about you?
Yeah, the thing that shoots out to me is why wouldn't you have a second copy of your commander, right?
Right.
You built your whole deck around him. Why not have two of them? And I was looking at this card specifically for Green Goblin because, yeah, Green Goblin can make him a one blue mayhem. So having this just come in super cheap as a copy of any card, especially if you want to get another effect or a big swing or something like that, having two better than one.
So next up is Scarlet Spider Ben Riley. You made an interesting comment about this. Is this misspelled?
It's not actually. You would think with the two L's, but no, that's how they spell them. Weird enough, but hey, I don't make the comics. I just read them. So he is for one red and a green. He's a 2/4/3 legendary creature. He's a spider human hero, and he also has web slinging for red and a green. He has trample and sensational save. If Scarlet Spider was cast using web slinging, he enters with X +1/+1 counters on him, where X is the mana value of the returned creature. So
The reminder text on web slinging for anyone that doesn't know is you may cast this spell for its web slinging cost if you also return a tapped creature you control to its owner's hand.
so you get your mana dork tapped for the mana, then you get him out for cheap. And honestly, I could see this guy even being in the command zone if you like the web slinging mechanic, just to give him a little discounted rate. And a trampler, a 4/3 rate is really good. And having him just come in with even more counters, especially if you like already go into your post combat main phase, swing with your big guy with 30 +1/+1 counters on him and essentially swap or the mana value rather. So you swing with your 12 caustic Galta, then you make him super big and then he
Yeah, if you want to go crazy. Yeah, but I really like the idea you had of just tap a mana dork, get a green, tap him out, and play this guy. Get your 1/1 counter, and heck, you could probably recast your mana dork, given the discounted rate you got. Like, I really like this. This is a nice aggressive piece. I think Commander is really lacking in aggressive commanders just overall. I mean, this comes down, and in your mana dork situation, it's going to be a 5/4 trample just to start things off turn 2. So I really like this. This could see play in standard. Just given how quickly it hits the table. And again, just as I said before, in red. I think red is commonly called the weakest color in Commander, and right now it's the strongest color in Standard by far. So I'm gonna say this is a must play. Right now, Imposter Syndrome. This is a card that has been memed to death. I mean, it's literally a meme. This is 4 blue for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. Here we are again with more copying effects for your commander, for your legendary creatures. It's got the kind of coastal piracy clause on it too, where you have to deal combat damage to a player. But I mean, Norman Osborn's unblockable. That 2/2 stacks piece we looked at earlier has flying. Like, I know this is 6 mana, but once you're there, there's a good chance you've already got some pieces on the table that you wouldn't mind copying. I think this goes right into my Calamax deck, where, he's 5 mana, play this on 6, swing, get 2 Calamaxes, and now I'm copying every instant twice? Sounds great.
yeah. And it being an enchantment, it's not the easiest thing to hit. A lot of times you have to build decks around getting enchantment removal. So, and if you're playing against the right color, like it's not your the imposter syndrome is not going anywhere. So I could see this being an absolute monster on the battlefield, but for that reason, I think I'm going to call it a menace, just because the second it hits the table, like no matter what's on the board or what's going to be on the board, you're going to be the threat.
Oh, yeah, I could agree with that. Next up is Mr. Negative. Do you want to take this guy?
Yeah, Mr. Negative. He is a 5 white and a black, 5/5 legendary creature human villain. He's Vigilance and Lifelink with Dark Force Inversion. When Mr. Negative enters, you may exchange life totals with target opponent. If you lost life this way, draw that many cards. Now, I like everything this card says, but I don't like how much this card costs. I think that's I can see why they gave it such a high cost because exchanging life totals is can be backbreaking, especially if you're since you're playing black, especially if you're just hurting yourself, like doing all your black effects. And then, oh, now I'm going to take the white players' 70 life they gained, and now they just lose.
Oh yeah, and draw 40 cards in the process. You know, that's if you lost life. If you lost life, yeah. But there's so much you can do with this card. But I think the high mana cost really does keep me from wanting to put this in the command zone anywhere. But that doesn't automatically make it a menace. What I think makes this card a menace for me is that you'll have to construct your deck in a very specific way if you want to take full advantage of Mr. Negative. And let's be honest, you're not getting this effect off in any high speed format, right? So you're probably playing this at a pretty casual commander table. And at a casual commander table, if I'm the white player and you take my 70 life and give me your 3, that's going to feel terrible. And the other way, you know, if I'm at 20 and you're at 30, swap life totals and draw 10 cards, you know, that's pretty strong. But really what keeps me from really liking this card is it's an Orzhov. And if I'm playing Orzhov in a commander deck, or if I'm playing Esper, I probably have some amount of drain. So usually, like, my opponents are losing 1 life at a time, and I'm gaining 1 life at a time, right? And I think in that kind of situation, your life total's not going to be that different from your opponent. And if it is, you're probably you're probably drawing like 4 cards off of this max and tapping out. I just don't see myself casting this ever.
It, yeah, I just think it's the cost that does it for me. And I could see it like if you wanted to be silly, throw it in the 99 of your deck, but it's again just that high cost is honestly crazy. Unless you know you're playing at someone who has a lot of life gain, it seems like more of a Hail Mary than anything. And all someone has to do is just play a counter spell, and then you just literally lost the game.
Yeah, you've constructed your whole deck to exchange life totals with someone, and then they say, "I don't want to do that."
Menace for sure.
Last up, we have Scorpion's Sting. This is 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. What do you think about this one?
I like it. And you see, black, I mean, having its multiple ways of removal, just adding on to the pieces, right? But I think the -3/-3 is the best part, just because you see a lot of -2 -2s, or if you see anything higher than this, it's going to cost you at least 3 or 4 mana. So having that relatively low cost on an instant speed -3/-3, I think is huge. I like this card.
So I think this might be with the second card that we've disagreed on, maybe the third card we've disagreed on. You're relatively new to Magic. You've been playing, what, a couple years at this point?
Yeah.
So are you familiar with the card Last Gasp from Ravnica?
No.
What about the card Shrivel from, like, M13, 12? Yeah, I think it's got reprinted a lot.
No.
So I think the reason that you're not familiar with those cards is because their Last Gasp is Scorpion Sting, right? It's 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -3/-3. And then Shrivel is 1 and a black. Each creature gets -1/-1. Right? And I think the reason you're not familiar with those cards is because if I'm paying 2 mana for removal in Commander, I kind of want it to hit everything. Like, I want to play Go for the Throat. or arguably, I feel like Doomblade might be more playable than this, or even Murder at 1 black, just to be able to guarantee kill whatever I want. And granted, those are destroy effects, but they're not going to get around things like indestructible, right? Which is why this card exists in the first place. Like you said before, it gives you a way to either piece together a kill on something or kill something that you otherwise couldn't because of like indestructible or another effect like that, or like damage prevention or something. So while I see why you would play this card in a particular deck, for me, I think this is a menace. I think there are better ways to spend 1 and a black to get a removal piece. But I could see why you would want to run this, right?
My young mind can't comprehend old cards.
Well, you've never heard of them before, right? But that is to say that these are just our opinions, right? And we're just a couple guys that play Commander, and this is just what we think. Like, if you like any of these cards that we called menaces, or if you think any of these must plays just suck, leave it in the comments if you want. Be civil. If it's mean, I won't read it. And there we go. That has been the first edition of Must Play or Menace. We've got one more story. As we like to call this our moment of zen, we like to include a little silly story at the end of the episode. Do you want to take this one? Because it's pretty goofy.
Yeah, so trending on websites all across the nation, a popular restaurant at Disney shopping area gets robbed by a suspect in scuba gear. So, from articles all over the place, a man all clad in scuba gear goes to Disney Springs and blacks out the cameras with spray paint, steals roughly $10,000 to $20,000 in cash, and then gets away in the water, in the water to scuba diving away.
That's insane. He just swam away?
Uh, Local reports say the suspect jumped into the water's restaurant replica steamboat, and he took off.
A picture released by the agency showed the man appearing to spray paint a security camera. The employees described the man as wearing tight clothing and a blue beanie. They said he was slim and approximately 5 foot 10 inches tall. The owners of Paddlefish referred all questions to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office said the investigation was ongoing. My goodness, what a world. A wet bandit in real life.
Scuba Steve is out to steal your money.
Have you ever been to Disney World? I've never been.
Yeah, and Disney Springs is a little bit different than Disney World. It's like a glorified shopping mall, if you will.
Okay, but does it like back up to the ocean? Like, how far do you think this guy had to swim with the money?
Well, Disney Springs specifically, it's all on waterways. So this, like, just looking at the maps, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of waterways. It's all a part of like Disney's big parks, but it's essentially right up on a big lake that I think it's man-made, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a good amount of waterways that goes to creeks that funnel into the ocean. So that's just Florida in general. So who knows how far and how long this man scubaed for, but
I would say he's in the wind, but he's probably still underwater.
And if you know anything about Florida, I do not envy him for getting in the water to begin with.
If the alligators don't get you, the mosquitoes will.
Well, he's got the money for the medical bills.
Well, everyone, that was the first episode of The Hole in the Wall. If you liked what you saw here, just come back and watch the next one. We're not going to ask for much. This is just something kind of fun we do. And hope you all enjoyed it. You got any final thoughts, Nimi, before we head out?
It's been fun as always with you, Goblin. Hope to do this again sometime soon. We'll bring you more stories from games that we like to play and news and stuff to make you feel better.